We're here at CyberScoop's Zero Trust Summit with Brian Dack, Director of Federal Solutions Engineering at Okta. Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, let me start by asking, how is OMB's Zero Trust requirements for agencies to adopt enterprise-wide platforms for identity and access management and multi-factor authentication, how's that impacted firms like Okta that's their sweet spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's accelerated the interest, right, that government agencies have in talking with us is really kind of pushed those, maybe the urgency for those conversations and the strategic nature of those conversations to a new level. Previously it may have been seen as maybe just like a tool, just a tool vendor type solution, where now it's much more critical and strategic for an agency to set that platform up and get it right from the beginning. And, in this zero trust world, you can have the greatest software-defined perimeters, you can have great EDR, you can have all these things, but if the bad guys are just logging in, if you don't get the identity right, that's what they're doing. They're just logging in and you don't know who they are and you don't know how to kind of add friction in the right places. So it's made it much more strategic.
Well, speaking of EDR, what challenges do you see government agencies still facing trying to maintain a complete inventory, for example, of authorized devices as spelled out by OMB and ensure that their EDR tools are properly deployed?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing in talking to agencies, one is to your point of getting an overall inventory, right? Getting their arms around the problem. Some of these agencies are massive in the infrastructure that they've got deployed out to the end users and around, sometimes around the world. And then they're dealing with the issue that there's sub-agencies within and they've got different solutions deployed in different places. So there's no kind of like centralized, super EDR that kind of pulls all that together. So I think they're just still struggling to get their arms around, like, okay, how do I inventory it? Some of the IT management stuff is helping with that, but then how do they push this down through the various sub-agencies and really, truly get their arms and apply the EDR, implement it and then apply those policies uniformly. They're just not a great uniformity across these large agencies.
And then how well equipped would you say federal agencies are today compared to, say, a couple of years ago to, identify and isolate segments of their IT environments that may have been compromised?
I think they're a lot better off than they were previously. I think that it's an evolution. I think that as they're implementing more some of the newer technologies that are able to help them create that, as I mentioned earlier, like that software-defined perimeters, and break down some of the silos and the old kind of moat and castle walls type mentality. That's allowing them to be more nimble and be able to create that kind of those perimeters as needed. We hear CISOs at some of the leading agencies talk about that really software is their security now. So they're starting to really implement and bring into the fold of the CISO office dev teams, right? If software is your security, you've got to have developers in your environment and on your teams to be able to actually do anything with that, right? To be able to change and modify and really understand what's happening in your environment. But I think that we're seeing what I'm seeing in conversations with customers is they're putting those investments in place, and they've done that over the last few years. Some of those foundational pieces. Now, that being said, I think there's a whole host of government agencies that are probably behind the 8 ball, right, and need to lay some of those foundational, whether it's even before you get to the pillars of zero trust, some of the things that are needed to really be able to start to implement. Zero trust isn't a single solution. I love to say that Okta is that solution, but it's not. We're one pillar of an overall kind of strategy, and I think there's needs to be some added investments, and I think that putting money behind the executive orders and not leaving them as unfunded mandates is critical. So.
And then lastly, Brian, looking ahead, how are OMB's zero trust policies altering the investment strategies at Okta, for example?
Yeah, so Okta defines our priorities on a yearly basis, and really not all because of what the executive orders have come out and the OMB mandates that have been out there, but we have kind of doubled down on our investments in federal and made it one of the top company priorities, one of the top 3 company priorities for the year, because we just feel that what Okta has and the conversations that we're having at this new this strategic nature of identity with these government agencies is going to bear fruit for Okta, and we're going to be able to provide a solution that is just head and shoulders above what our competitors do, and make the customers want what we have. So we're doing a lot of investments in the compliance, right, moving into the different impact levels for DISA and into more of the FedRAMP high environments, as well as the features and the kind of critical features that the government needs, right? Expanding our capabilities around multifactor for the government, and then as we find, as we're discovering more with the government, right, we're pivoting those roadmaps and trying to match what our customers and really kind of those lighthouse accounts that are driving the innovation and helping us drive our product roadmaps to match the needs of the government.
Well, Brian Dack, thank you so much for joining us here at the Zero Trust Summit.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks a lot.